On today's episode of Rare, we welcome Oliver Jack. Oliver is a senior leader within the pharma and biotech space, having progressed through companies such as Novo Nordisk, Shire, Orphazyme, and Reata Pharma. He has held various VP positions as a leader in market access at a global and regional level, and has launched multiple rare disease products in his career. So welcome, Oliver. Uh, can
Thank you very
you
much, Laura.
through can you talk us through your journey so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually started my journey into pharma on the policy side. So I was working in the European Parliament on the first clinical trials directive, and that was what piqued my interest and really exposed me to the benefits of the industry. From there, I moved to GSK, working as an EU affairs advisor, and our role was to highlight the benefits of a fit and thriving pharma industry in Europe and the importance of healthy populations for the economic success, people's well-being, and really to make sure that the pharma industry was well represented. Um, we know it's a challenging space, and we have some moral responsibilities in the work we do. But I think it's a great industry to be in and incredibly worthwhile. So with that, I moved also to the political side of pharma, and that meant in the day payers really starting to come on the scene and put challenges in place to pharma products getting to patients and making the industry really have to step up. So given that environment, I moved into consulting, working on pricing and market access. And that was a great grounding for me. It exposed me to lots of different products, therapy areas, different geographies. But I think the most important thing for me from that was the chance to speak to the payers every day. So I got an idea of the mindset, what exactly they were looking for. And following, I did that for the best part of a decade. And then I wanted to own the process. So at that stage, I moved into the industry in the pricing and market access space and joined a great team at Novo Nordisk, where I was given the responsibility for managing market access for their launch of Xultophy, which is an insulin GLP-1 combination. Following that, I moved to Shire, which then became Takeda, where I was focused much more on rare diseases, so looking after things like Gaucher and Fabry. And I really loved in the rare disease space the directness and the impact that you can see from getting access to these patients who are underserved in terms of the therapy options that are available to them. So I really enjoyed that side of things. And from there, I got the opportunity in 2020 to access Orphazyme, which is a Danish company. And their key focus was on MPC. They had other indications for the product. Unfortunately, they hit some regulatory difficulties. And I know that Zevra Therapeutics are currently doing some great work to try and get a treatment to those patients. And then most recently, I joined Reata Pharmaceuticals, where we worked on a product for Friedreich's ataxia, which was a great experience. Managed to get it through regulatory approval and give the Friedreich's ataxia community their first treatment. And, we had approval in the US, and we were able to get early access to a number of patients in several markets in Europe.
Great. Well, as a senior leader, you have the experience of building a market access function. Like, where do you start with that? Like, what are the particular considerations, particularly for a rare disease company?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the starting point really has to be with the people, and making sure you get the right people on board. You have a strong discussion of how the company envisages the market access function, the breadth of the remit, making sure that there is an understanding of the trade-offs that you're going to have to make, because biotechs typically have limited resources. So you've got to be pragmatic about the way that you're approaching the development of the function. And there's no definitive answer in terms of what is the right structure for your market access function. And there's pros and cons of different ways of doing it. So you can have a centralized organization where you have the market access team in one place and you really keep a tight hold of it, probably using agencies in countries to get the specific information. It's got its challenges because some countries you might not have as much expertise in, if you only have the centralized part of the organization, or you can go with a decentralized in-market setup where you have the market access teams in each of the countries. It gives you a high level of expertise and it's very useful for the stakeholder engagement, but it's expensive, and you can end up over employing, particularly if it's early on in the company's development. And it's really about getting the timing right to make sure that you don't have too many people in place, but you have them in place quick enough. I think on balance, I favour a bit of a hybrid where you have the centralised support and the local contractors. I think that works well and can give you some good flexibility. But I mean, developing the teams in the future is going to be very interesting, because there's a piece of education, I think, required to make sure the importance of the changes that are happening in market access is well understood. So we've got coming up the advent of the joint HTA process in Europe, and then there's the work to make sure that your strategy's sound around the IRA in the US. So I think going back to where I started, it's having those good upfront discussions that's key.
Yeah, there's just so many things to consider, and you can see why it is such a challenging area. But how important are early access programs in this?
So I think in terms of supporting the work of the access team, they can be very important, particularly if there haven't been trials in a particular market. With biotechs, there is, as I said, a limited amount of resource. So your trial size can only be so big, otherwise the costs can escalate. So you can't always have trial sites in every location, and it gives a great opportunity to increase exposure to the product and allow the physicians to get hands-on experience, which it's when they actual impact of a product, particularly in a rare space. They're often in a few specialized centers. And so you can really get the key players to understand what you're bringing to the market. And that's crucial when you come to the payer negotiations, because the payers will ask the clinicians, what does this product do? How badly do you need it? And if they can see the benefits and the way that it can change lives, then it's so much the better for it.
Yeah. So once you then have started to build this function, particularly in a biotech, how do you manage that from an M&A perspective?
So I think that goes back a little bit to the discussion around building the team and the timing and the flexibility that you've built into education. And as I said, I think using some contractor positions can be helpful with that, because pre-launch you want to keep your resources as light as possible to preserve your runway and make sure you don't have too high a burn rate. But post-launch, you need feet on the ground to make sure that the revenue is coming in. And there are some countries, particularly in the orphan space, where things are done on an individual patient basis before they go through a centralized pricing and reimbursement system. And even the most enthusiastic of clinicians who want to get the product to patients need some support in how to navigate that. And particularly if it's a therapy area where there's been no treatment and they haven't been exposed to the steps that are required. So yeah, I think trying to keep some flexibility is very important, because then if there is M&A, either you as a company acquiring somebody or being acquired, you're well placed to deal with it.
Yeah. No, well, thanks a lot for that, Oliver. It's been great to hear your insights on market access. And thanks for taking the time to feature.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.